Hey, all my Aries friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Terry Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your May 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Aries, I'm talking about Aries rising. If you don't know your rising sign, you'll want to go to one of the free birth calculators on the internet, and you just need your exact time of birth and location in order to determine that information. This is also very, very applicable to Aries moon as well as Aries sun. And if you have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Aries, this video is going to be very applicable to you as well. I want to point out that the chart itself it changes with the day. I have no control, so I can't keep it at Aries rising in the first house. So I will refer to the houses verbally. Um, but we see there's quite a concentration in the first and second house for my Aries. So that's the focus, the self, and the sense of self through using your voice, using your skills, using your talents and your gifts. One other thing before I start. This is based on the Pacific time zone. So when I refer to a time and a day, it's based on that. So please adjust for your location. Let's jump right in because the month starts off with Mars entering its rulership. It's at 0 degrees, which is that degree of it's a fresh, new energy. Oftentimes, the planet can potentially be unfamiliar with the energy, but here Mars is extremely familiar with its homeland of Aries. But now it's focused on being a peaceful warrior, being a hero, being brave, being a pioneer. Mars has spent the last couple of years really reflecting. It spent 7 months in Gemini back in 2022 and 2023. And there, Mars started to realize, if I want to be a leader, how do people respond to my way of being? And as Mars spent much time in April in summit with Saturn, they reviewed that and talked about how Saturn can be more strategic versus reactionary. Now we see, Mars can be more strategic rather than reactionary. Saturn was counseling Mars on that energy. And I say that because Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn and Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn. These two planets are cooperative. While Saturn can slow things down and Mars wants to speed things up, when they work together, they understand the ebb and the flow of speed, time, and intention. And here, as Mars has moved into its domicile on this very first day of the month, it has had a conversation with Neptune about how do I want to implement my spiritual practices as I pioneer into new areas. I also want to note that these two planets, Mars and Neptune, are in a very favorable aspect, a sextile to Pluto. And Pluto is literally sitting in the sky, standing and staring out, deciding, what do I want to do for myself? This is the Venusian degree, the second degree. We're going to address Venus in a minute. That Venusian degree here is, how can I be authentic with myself and renovate myself and move into my future? And part of that moving into my future is going back, retrograding into my past to see where I'm still hiding or where I'm still operating on old fears or old dynamics that are so ingrained in me that I don't even have a conscious awareness of them. But this dynamic up here with Mars and Neptune is going to support this rebirth into this awareness, so that rather than having whatever you reflect upon bring up more resentment and anger, which Mars is known for, it's going to transform that. So I'm very excited about this dynamic. And we see that Venus has moved into your second house. Again, Taurus rules a sense of history, a family history, where your confidence was nurtured as a child, lives here in this house. It's a sign that is very much about craftsmanship, about using my skills, using my voice to speak on my own behalf, as well as to use it in a creative way. And we see that you've been experiencing this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that's been building very strongly since way back in February is offering you new opportunities. Right now, it's like it's, oh, I thought it was squaring the moon. Okay, never mind. Let me go back. Let me go to the second where we see Pluto move into its retrograde. Now, Pluto will be retrograde from May 2nd to October 11th. But from September 2nd through October 11th, it will dip back into Capricorn. And that's important because Capricorn is your 10th house, your house that is that of the career, your public status, your sense of leadership. It's also a house that can represent a change in status. And Pluto very much represents a rebirth of some kind. And in order to be reborn, something must die. So, but whatever it is, to me, feels like it's a falsehood. It could potentially even be a lack of self-confidence, because as Pluto is squaring Venus in her house of home, Pluto is challenging Venus to really look deeply into where she could potentially give up her power to another situation. She co-rules Libra. Libra is all about cooperation and contractual partnerships. So this is a deep dive into Venus's self-worth here, and it can be a little bit challenging. It started when she moved into her domicile late April. I think it was the 28th, and this will continue on for a little bit. All right, let's go to the third, where we see Neptune enter the anaretic degree. This is a degree of mastery. This is a degree we see at the 28th degree. It represents, the 28 reduces down to a 10. At the 29th degree, it reduces down to an 11. This is like a series of ones. The angels tell me this is where an awareness of your thoughts is extremely important, because as you focus on something, you begin to create a momentum of manifestation. And so here, this is really manifesting my spiritual practice, manifesting my discipline within my practice, going from my divine source first before I take action into the physical world. It's a really powerful place. Neptune will retrograde before it moves into Aries. And I think that happens in 2025. I have that written somewhere, but we'll revisit that later. Let's go now to the 27th, I'm sorry, the 7th, where we're going to see a new moon in Taurus. This is going to be at 8:21 p.m. Pacific time. And whenever we have a new moon, we have a moon that's planting the seeds. It's the darkest phase of the moon. It is a time when things are built on faith, when the soul's inner knowing has an opportunity to speak very loudly. And that inner trust of that contract that you made, which is represented by this wheel right here, and the transits that you walk through, physically, your soul agreed to so that it could empower itself as a co-creator on this planet. So here you are in an opportunity to co-create. Now, the 18th degree is the Virgo degree. It can be considered a challenging degree, but here I think it's planting the seeds for a wisdom to be extracted from whatever has held me back or enslaved me to a lower version of myself. We see at the time of the new moon, we still have a strong conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus. I would really give this a 5-degree orb, because they're slow-moving planets, and with Jupiter's expansion, that feels right to me. Here we see they're still within 3 degrees, and we see Venus is now at the Capricorn degree, which is where she's really willing to build structure. She's getting more and more strength with the idea of receiving bounty and benefit through her thoughts and her voice, how she's speaking about herself and allowing herself to take inspired action. Now, I see this trine here. I'm going to click on Pluto real quick, because we see Pluto is in a trine. It's a loose trine to Jupiter. as Jupiter moves into Gemini at the end of May, that trine will be tighter. But now this is where we're really starting to feel this expansion of our transformation, and the potentials can feel dreamy as we see this Neptune here at the anaretic degree. Now, Saturn is here in a half square to Pluto, but that's to me feels more as if my history, I could be coming up against my history or my fears, but my belief is growing so strongly in a bigger version of myself that I don't think this aspect is as strong as it could be. So I think that's really powerful. When we look at the sun and the moon in this sextile to Saturn, we see the potential of extracting the reward Saturn offers, as Saturn rewards through time, through effort, through discipline, through a conquering of our fears. We also kind of, I feel as if when I look at this dynamic, Taurus rules my personal history, the house of Pisces rules my ancestral history, and Saturn rules history of man. And so here there's something that feels very potentially expansive about how I'm viewing the environment that I'm walking through, how it has shaped me, and how I can make the black spots in my life make the color pop, how I can see myself in a way that represents divine possibilities. And all of this gets to be planted in this new moon. And I think this is really, really fabulous. Let's go on to the 13th. I'm going to move this back to 12 o'clock. And I do that just because it's sort of a general time that we use. Now, we've noticed that the majority of the activity is, again, in your first and your second house. So throughout the whole month, you're going to be reflecting on what's important to you, what you want as an Aries, how much are you willing to be brave? Are you inadvertently holding yourself back because of any wounds that you have or any old history? Mars now is moved at the 10th degree and is heading very quickly towards the North Node. And this is going to make this feeling of really wanting to move on, get on with it, tired of being tethered to somebody else's version of who and what I get to be in my life. And we see Venus, she's within a few degrees now, 5 degrees of Uranus, and Uranus is exactly conjunct the sun, really illuminating how do I want to project myself moving forward? How will I allow myself to drive the future version of me, my hopes, my dreams? The 11th house of the Uranus rules is also co-ruled by Saturn. So there's an embracing of the past that is the platform and the launching pad for the future. And so when we look at what didn't work, holding myself back, not allowing myself my expansion, and now I step into that, even if I'm scared a little bit, and yet at the same time, there's an exhilaration being offered. This is a very, very powerful energy. We see that Venus is at that Leo degree. So this is a doubly creative, dynamic day, time. I think Uranus is really calling forth a liberation. Like, please let me move forward. Don't tether me to what has been. And I want to note that we're 2 weeks into May, and Pluto's only moved 2 minutes from where it started its retrograde. So Pluto is holding fast on bringing an awareness, something that is revolutionary, something that will be, Pluto has really got this very, very, it's almost like a scarlet letter on its planet's forehead, that it's bad. It represents death. But when you look at the planet and the face of the planet, it has a heart on it. It is built from the tumultuous energies that are happening underneath the surface. And you can see this out in space. I believe it's about 600 miles wide. And so Pluto is really tearing away anything that does not come from your true heart. Anywhere that you might, because Aries could want to prove itself. It could very much be like, you didn't believe in me. You wanted to put baby in a corner. Well, baby's going to show you how to dance. So this is a very powerful, powerful energy. And we see that the trine between Pluto and Jupiter is getting stronger and stronger. So that is kind of cool. Let's go on to the 15th. This is where Mercury will move into Taurus. So this is, again, we're seeing, here's a strong, this is a very strong, what we call stellium. This is 3 personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and the sun. Then we also have Jupiter and Uranus. So this is all very powerful for digging in, for creating a more, I want to offer it this way, because as Mercury moves into Taurus, your thoughts, your speech, your family history could very much come into the forefront of your mind. And yet these planets here are offering you expansion. And when I say expansion, I mean the potential of making money, having material flow, having things that you want really start to grow. The caveat is about a combination of Aries being able to be diligent in its allowing the universe to inspire action. We see Mars is here now, 3 degrees away from the North Node, making things quite, there's a ravenous sort of impatient energy here. And at the same time, it's that very patience that Saturn was talking about with Mars, that is going to really create sustainable, long-term flow, material resources, and shift your experience from being reactionary to being intentional. That's the way I want to put it. Let's see. Okay, so we see all these planets are basically conjunct. On the 20th, the sun will move into Gemini. Now we have this really tight conjunction starting between Venus and Jupiter. Now Jupiter is getting to those anaretic degrees. So the anaretic degree is technically the 29th degree, as we see here with Neptune. Here we see a sextile between this energy. This is super favorable. This being favorable to this. I shouldn't say this in case you're listening and not watching. Venus, Jupiter, and the sun are all in a conjunction as they're about to change signs. Venus and Jupiter going and joining the sun in Gemini. That is making a sextile to a 29-degree Neptune, really offering an expansion of my own ideas, my imagination, my creativity, my willingness to birth a bigger part of myself somewhere out there in the universe, whether it be the World Wide Web or within my own community. There's very much this feeling of stepping out in for others to see me. I know we don't necessarily think of Taurus as that energy, but as these Venus and Jupiter move into Gemini. Gemini rules my everyday activities. It rules my my roadways, my sidewalks, my escalators, my errands, my running my kids to school, my kids in many ways, the cousins, the siblings. So here is going to be very powerful. It's in a great sextile to Neptune, and Neptune is in a sextile to transformative Pluto. So this is going to be really wonderful. And then we know that Pluto will make a trine to all these planets as they move into Gemini. So this is extremely supportive, but I believe the support that it fosters comes from an awareness of the ebb and the flow, meaning not trying to take consistent action because there's some clock ticking, but rather taking action as you are inspired to do so. Now let's go to the 23rd, where we will see a full moon in Sagittarius. And that happens at 6:53 a.m. Pacific time. Now, the full moon is always where there's an illumination. Okay. And this to me, now we see Jupiter and Venus at this full moon at the anaretic, the mastering degree of my talents, my skills. And to be a true master is not about being perfect at something, it's about understanding the ebb and the flow, the perfection of always experiencing expansion and growth. And that is what Jupiter has to offer and what Venus has to offer. It's making a wonderful sextile to Neptune. So this could be illuminating more possibilities. It could be illuminating expansion of some kind. It's the moon is in a sextile here to to Pluto. And Pluto is in a trine to Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun. So this is very, very favorable. And I think a lot of it comes from the work that was done as Venus was going through Pisces and meeting with Saturn and then entering Aries and really getting used to the idea of being an assertive woman, but in a way that is not about being a ball buster or being abroad, but being somebody who understands the divine feminine and the divine masculine work in tandem together. They are synergistic, they are complementary. And as we take the human structure off of it, we are more capable of demonstrating and experiencing these divine laws of ebb and flow, of reception and action. And when we do that, we know bounty regardless of the outside world's circumstances. So this is super, super powerful. So this illumination is going to just, I mean, we see the sun here in that trine. We see the moon in a sextile. We see that while the moon is in an opposition to Venus and Jupiter, I don't feel like this is a critical opposition. I feel like it's an illumination that I'm more talented than I give myself credit for. There's more opportunities for me to create business. Jupiter rules wealth. It rules higher knowledge, meaning like masters and PhDs degrees or studying philosophies and ideologies. It represents travel and tourism and foreign people. It represents influencers and marketing and publishing and people who would post content on the internet. And as Jupiter, while it's considered in detriment moving into Gemini later this month, I believe we're going to rewrite that story a bit because Jupiter's going to understand the details that Gemini has to offer are about how these philosophies will land on my everyday life, and it becomes a more powerful energy. The human tends to oppose things in a way that puts them in these little boxes. And I think that all these accesses are actually complementary. So the illumination that we experience during this full moon is not always about closing the chapter of something that we want, but allowing us a greater sight to open a new beginning as we have a certain awareness. And this awareness is I have more talent, more skills, more opportunities, more abundance is possible. But how have I potentially, as an Aries, been holding myself back because I was scared or I was afraid or I was unsure? The moon is making a square and a half to your ruling planet in its ruling sign at the Leo degree. So that Leo degree is that self-expression. All right, let's go on to the 23rd of the month where Venus will join. Oh, we are in the 23rd. We need to go later in the day. I'll actually just go to the 24th. That's what I will do. Yeah, let's go to the 24th. Venus has moved into Gemini. We see the sun is in Gemini. We see this, the moon, moves very quickly, but it's making these wonderful aspects up here to your first house. So this could be a day where you're starting to really understand that sometimes we wouldn't take a path of fulfillment if we hadn't walked a path that compelled us through something challenging. We see Venus is making an exact sextile here to Pluto. So this is really a favorable aspect for moving my story into the future, moving my story forward. We're, with the South Node, I haven't really addressed the South Node much in this video, but this South Node is always going to be a theme right now of are you willing to assert yourself in a way that complements your partnerships, or do you feel so alone? Because sometimes Aries can feel very alone. If they don't do it by themselves, it won't get done. It'll take too long. It won't be done right. And this here is really a sort of a looking at my ego and how I address partnerships, how I perceive myself in partnerships. Do I even see my own value in partnerships? This is at the 14th degree, which is the Venusian degree. And we've heard all along how Venus is going through this transformational time, but a favorable one that is working in her benefit versus pulling her under. Okay, let's go on to, we will see Jupiter in a day or so. Let's see if we get Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter moves into Gemini. I believe it's late in the day on the 25th. So, but here we're on the 26th. And this is about a year stint. It will last until June 2025. Jupiter will expand the neighborhood, expand your thoughts, expand the way that you're speaking. Again, Jupiter sometimes doesn't enjoy the details, but all the planets are evolving in ways where they're recognizing that their shadow side is an opportunity for their own growth and expansion. And when Jupiter was in alignment with Uranus, there was a lot of awareness of that. There was a lot of epiphanies, lightning bolt strikes that moved the way I was thinking, because Jupiter can be dogmatic sometimes. If we look at religion can be very dogmatic. It can put us on a hamster wheel of being. And here Jupiter's saying, wait, I want to move beyond that. I want to take the parts of my own personal philosophies, my religious beliefs that expand me, and I want to move them with me into the future. But at the same time, it's time to maybe let those things that have held me back stay where they are in the rearview mirror. Okay. And let's just take a gander at the end of the month. We'll go to the 30th. This month actually has 31 days, but this is where now we see that Mercury is starting to have a conjunction. This is actually a pretty tight conjunction. And to me, Mercury is considered, or Uranus is considered, the higher octave of Mercury. Mercury is, again, thinking, speaking. And here, this is Uranus rules genius. These ideas that seem to come out of space because there's no evidence of them here on the walking planet. Now, I say that because this conjunction to me is really sort of looking, here we are in Taurus, thinking about my childhood, Mercury, thinking about how I was raised, Mercury, thinking about how I perceived that in my confidence, the house of Taurus. And now there's this expansive and even spiritual feeling to Uranus at the 24th degree, because now I'm seeing how the dark spots compelled me. And I know I use that phrase a lot, but that is the difference between those that feel successful and those that don't. When we watch these reality shows and people say, when I was in da-da-da age, they said I had no talent, and they could have stopped there. But they continued on. And then I think on The Voice, a girl gets, no chairs and then comes back the next season and gets 4 chairs. This is what is the potential of these two planets. Mercury and Uranus being together in the sign of Taurus has an opportunity to revolutionize how you felt about yourself, how you think about yourself, how you demonstrate yourself out into the world. And to me, this is further evidenced by this conjunction between Mars and Chiron, because Chiron was in an exact conjunction to the solar eclipse that happened on April 8th. On April 8th, we had an opportunity to really look and start to foster the reward side of Chiron. And that's what I think this channel is about, is fostering the reward side of the planets. Saturn is offering reward here in Pisces. Yes, is it a slow, roll and a kind of a journey down down my memory lane, I guess is the way I want to put it. And some of those memories may not always feel so favorable or so fun, but they also they give me an opportunity to make a new choice. So this is super powerful. And in our final day of the month, we see Mercury has moved over Uranus. It has had a literally infusing of energy, this sort of electric feeling that could have happened potentially overnight. And I want to offer too, because when we look at this particular day, we see a lot of blue lines. We're seeing this South Node is in a trine to Venus and the Sun. We see that Venus and the Sun are in a favorable aspect here to the North Node. We see that, I know we've got this half square to Eris and Mars. This half square is really a kind of a summit between brother and sister, which goes back to the idea of Gemini and coming together and standing up for what we believe in a way that represents our evolution, represents our new awarenesses. And then we see this favorable aspect that's continuing to spiritually rewrite my story, to take my ancestral soul's dynamic and to move it forward in a way that makes me feel proud and makes me feel joyful. And my thoughts have expanded, my everyday experience is expanding, and I feel proud. So this is such a favorable time, a favorable month. The first half of 2024 has been really a ground setting, a setting up, the first act for the next chapter or the next sequential chapters in the book of our lives. And I believe that while we're going through what could be categorized as a polarizing time, because some people will stand in fear and they will grip onto that fear. But I believe those that are finding themselves seeking information and journeying through their own co-creation will find much bounty, much benefit, and much reward moving forward. All right, my Aries friends, that's it for me, Terry Hunter. If you'd like to get a reading with me, my information or my email is below, and I'll send you all the information on the astrology charts that I do. I also do tarot and angel card readings. If you'd like to get one of those, reach out to me and I'll send you all the particulars. And please join me. I'm putting out content all the time. So please hit that notification bell. Hit that share bell, whatever it's called, hit the like button, whatever that's called. And thanks for sticking with me, everybody. I'll see you next month, Aries. Have a good month. Bye-bye.